All right. So our guest today, welcome to Rockland Sound for one, where rock meets Rockland. My normal co-host Tom, I think is caught up with something with his business at the moment, unless he pops on. And two, uh, he's out in Rockland County, New York, so that's why it's called Rockland Sound. I'm originally from New Jersey, where I mentioned something about that a minute in the little pre-talk there, and now in Austin, Texas. So I know Texas has been very important to Triumph in the future. So welcome to Rockland Sound. Our guest is Mike Levine from Triumph.
Hey, Mike, nice to be here.
Thank you. What an honor. Been a fan for many years. I was just letting you know that I had seen you in concert with a friend of mine, Steve, back in the Thunder 7 days, way back then with Loudness and Mountain. And it was a great show. And your music is still in my, I could literally open up my phone and I have all your albums that I bought on the phone. And now I'm finding some at vinyl places. So I'm refurbishing the vinyl because I unfortunately didn't take care of my stuff when I was a kid. My wife still has the original Atari and all those things.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it works. The games, everything, it's intact.
That's amazing.
Yep. So we have actually album covers that are on our wall that we framed. So we just moved. But if you would see the entrance of where we walk in, it's framed with like Paradise City by Styx and a whole bunch of different records from all over the years. So cool. People come in, it's an instant conversation piece. So we're celebrating and promoting the 40th anniversary of the amazing Allied Forces album. And that's is that mainly for Record Store Day?
Yeah, that's where it came out of. Record Store Day Canada got in touch with us a year ago and said, "Would you guys, be honored to have you guys as ambassadors for Canada?"
Yeah, box set, right?
Yeah, so we said, sure, why not? Record stores are important. There are a fleeting few left.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all independent now. There's none of the big box stores carry music hardly at all.
No, some places are coming back with like Tower Records. I heard is coming back and stuff too.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So we had to create some kind of special product for Record Store Day. So we talked about it, thought about it, and we said, well, we haven't done a box set before. Let's do a box set.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So let's make it all about Allied Forces because it's the 40th anniversary of the album.
Well, if you can't pick a better album to do, I mean, that's a solid. That's up in the top there.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't think you made a bad album, so that, in my opinion. Also, I mean, so it's the things included in it. I'm looking at now. It seems like you've got picture discs in there, live in Cleveland, a single. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to go into it because?
I'll give you a rundown.
Okay, you do it.
I didn't know until like a week ago. I hadn't seen the package, so I didn't know what made the cut and what didn't make the cut.
Oh, wow.
But there's a picture disc of the original Allied Forces album. There is a double gatefold 180-gram vinyl of a concert we did in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a nice package, and the music's awesome. I mean, we really played well that night. There is a single on vinyl. That's what singles are, I guess. On one side is there's a tribute album coming out late fall, probably.
Oh, wow.
Being recorded in Los Angeles, where a bunch of artists are doing Triumph things.
Oh, that'd be great.
So there's Allied Forces is on. That's one side of the single. The other one is Magic Power from Allied Forces Tour live in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a big poster. There is a retro tour book, the original tour book.
Wow.
Page for page. Then there's a separate book that the artists and the people in the handling have put it together, which is interviews with us. There's all kinds of rare photos that I've never seen. Maybe one or two, but other than that, but it's really an heavy paper. Everything's like first class in it. There's no chintz out at all.
Well, that's the way you always did quality, definitely.
Yeah, quality is if no quality, don't do it. You know, it's
Even when you
pointless.
put out the live videos, DVDs or whatever that a few years back, with the one from the Sport of Kings tour and all that.
Yeah.
Great stuff the way you put it together.
Yeah, those videos, the US Festival one was really good, I thought, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the one from Sweden is pretty good too. You know, we didn't have enough cameras that were working at the time. The contractor didn't show up. He showed up with half the gear he was supposed
to. Real good.
But yeah, there's other things. There's a backstage pass from the tour. There's Rick used to do a cartoon spread in Hit Parader called Rock Tunes, and
I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he had a bunch of cartoons left over. So there's 3 of them in there. There's lyrics, handwritten lyrics to 3 songs. There's, I don't know. If you live in Canada, there's a special poster for Canada only.
Okay.
I think that kind of wraps it up. There might be a couple of more things that I forget, but anyway, it's really a nice box. It's done well. It won't break on you. You know, it won't fall apart.
That's good. Well, I'm hitting one of those milestone birthdays on the 20th of June, so okay. I'm hitting 50.
Oh yeah, Daddy.
I'm throwing that one in the pot for my wife to go grab me. Now I'm giving her a job. Now I noticed that you guys have been working on the documentary.
Yeah.
And I watched a recent interview that you did with my friend Mitch LaFon and his friend Jeremy, where you mentioned that you're almost finished with it.
Yeah.
At least through that interview.
Yep. Well, that interview was only last week, I think, with Mitch and Jeremy.
Yeah, he was our first guest here. He launched the Rockland Sound Show.
It's in the final stages of production. There's stuff that I don't really need to know about when it comes to film. It's hard enough to deal with music. And film's a whole other business. It's a whole other technical operation. So, they have to do 4 different versions, one for TV, right, one for theater, one for this, one for perhaps a DVD, which is not planned right now. So there's all kinds of, production things that have to put together. And for all intents and purposes, the film's finished. It's just all the final stuff they have to do.
Now, when you look at documentaries, there's some that just kind of focus on general issues or general things in the band. Then there's those ones that like the Eagles one that they did where they go real deep. Are you going down the rabbit hole there about everything, or are you in the middle?
We go heavy shallow. All I know about the Eagles doc, you end up hating every one of those guys, They all look like dipsticks in it.
Yeah, they went to the point where they sounded like they were still kind of angry.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit of that, but what's great about the film, it's not just all about the band. The fans are really important to the film. There's moments that'll make you laugh, moments that'll make you cry. So it's emotional, and it's pretty well paced. I don't think you'll fall asleep. But
well, one of the things I know from being in Texas in the last 8 years is that Texas is a place where Texas fell in love with Triumph early on. When I found that out, we have a place called Half Price Books and More, and it's a great store. It sounds like it's like a thrift store. It's not. I mean, obviously a lot of people aren't using vinyl anymore and CDs, or some of it's making a comeback, obviously, but I found it one day and I went in. It's a big, beautiful store if you want to buy books or anything. And when I found your first album in there, and I pulled it up and I went up to the counter and the guy went, "I'll buy it off you." He didn't know it was in there because he's like, "You're lucky you got a Triumph album out of that bin with And I mean, there's tons of albums. Some of them are still I bought Highway to Hell for my wife, and it's a new version, so it's in the wrapping and everything, so it's not all just old stuff. New bands are putting them out too, but I saw that and then my eyes lit up. I was like, yes, I got it. And this was a couple of years ago, but my wife got me a vinyl record player for my birthday.
Cool.
And been replenishing it. We're a little bit different as a podcast. So before I let you go into the Texas thing, let me go and ask something that I normally ask in the beginning to all of our artists. One of also things is I know you're here to promote stuff and talk about the band. We also are interested in you're my guest, our guest, and one of the things is really get to know you a little bit for the time you have here. One of the questions that seems to really resonate with the artists we have is, what is that first album that you had to buy with your own money that you said, I have to have this album?
Wow. First album that I had to buy, as opposed to bought.
Well, meaning as a musician or somebody who loves music, getting into music, you probably had music around you, but there was that one that you were like, oh, if I have to save my lunch money, you know, like for me, it was Queen.
That could be the Chicago Transit Authority.
That's a good album.
That's a great album. Mm-hmm. Those guys could play. Wow. One of the great days of my life was me hanging out with Pete Cetera, the bass player.
Yeah.
I was telling him how great he was, you know, and he's going, there is. And he's going, oh, come on, man, you can outplay me. I go, no way, man, no way. I spent hours dropping the needle and trying to learn his parts. You know, it's pretty amazing record.
Yeah, that's a great game, great album. I had a lucky moment where did a closet in our house, and I think I was probably looking for a baseball or something. I threw my baseball and I lost it or something in the woods or whatever, and I was running through there and there was this box. And I said, this is a box. I started flipping through it and I saw it was records. And, you know, I was just getting in the guitar and stuff, you know, around 10, 11, 12-ish, you know, and picking up albums and stuff. Not buying them, but we had a grocery store that had some tapes that were in it. And I like picked up Van Halen. I begged my mom with like fake tears, like, I need that. And when I took this this box upstairs and went through it, it was, it was my stepfather's record collection. Okay. It was all the old Temptation albums and all that kind of stuff, the Motown stuff. And then in the back of it, I didn't know his favorite band when he was growing up was Chicago.
Yeah, okay.
And all those albums, like pretty much up until you got to like the late 70s, he had them all. Oh, so okay. I got my mom walked, there's Freudian something. No, my mom walked by my room and she was thinking, you know, usually hearing me listen to Kiss or something. And she was like, what is that? That's Chicago. You know, she goes, oh, you found your stepfather's box. Yeah, so it sat in there on me. Now, growing up, also, we mentioned Sweden rock too. So what made you though? Well, before I go into that, I'm jumping ahead because I'm excited. And I apologize for that, but you know, I'm talking to somebody I look up to. And our guests are getting cooler and cooler and cooler, even though they've all been great. So what is it though that made you get into music and you know, formed like, you know, that drive to, you know, want to do it for a living?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with girls.
But, yeah.
When I was in high school, there was no bands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was no bands, period. Right? Actually, that's not true. There were some bands, but not in the school, so to speak. So a bunch of us formed a band. Mm-hmm. There was like 5 or 6 or 7 of us, and you know, rehearsed some songs and played at the school assembly. And then we played at, you know, at churches and played in basements of bakeries, anywhere you get a gig. But you know, there was always girls around. Because our hair was just slightly over our ears, you know, and we were having fun and even playing the Stones and Beatles and R&B and whatever, just a whole confluence of different genres of music. So that's how it started, and then we kind of had to narrow the band. We had too many guitar players because I was playing guitar as well, so figured we had to get rid of a couple. So we got it down to two guitar players. And then the other guy said, well, we only need one guitar player. And Mike, your dad's a bass player, so you're the bass player now.
Oh, yeah, just by proxy.
that's what my dad did for a living. So.
Oh, cool. Oh, so now let me just ask that. What type of was he a big band kind of stuff he was doing, or what was he playing?
He was in the Toronto Symphony Orchestra.
Oh wow!
But also
was like a stand-up big.
Yeah, he was a jazz guy as well. He was the first call jazz player in Toronto. Wow. So when anybody came to town, whether who was the guy that played? Lionel Hampton would come to town, just him, and he'd pick up a bass player and a drummer in Toronto. So my dad would get that gig. So
you had music around you.
Yeah, man. I grew up with jazz. I grew up with classical. My sister, a couple of years older than me, she was buying 78s. Yeah. Like Little Richard, Good Golly Miss Molly, and all that stuff. So I had a pretty good, well-rounded background.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So then, who were the original? I mean, so you had a whole bunch of people in the band. You said too many guitar players. Now, where are you narrowing it down to getting to the three guys, or how you guys all piece it together?
Oh, this is long before Triumph. There was like 7 or 8 bands in between, Okay. So.
All right. So you were playing around.
Yeah.
Well, hold on one second here. It looks like we have Tom here. Popping in. All right, Tom. We're actually in the first quarter, I guess, of the interview.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah. So Tom Osa there.
Nice to meet you.
My equally handsome and engaging host. With us here in Rockland on Rockland Sound. So that's Mike Levine from Triumph.
Pleasure to meet you, Mike.
It's good to meet you, Tom.
So amazing work that you've done over the years. Amazing.
Thank you so much.
So basically, we initially went in there where I've asked the album question, and they have for Record Store Day coming up, a 40th anniversary box set with some great goodies in there. Of their great album, Allied Forces. And we're just getting into where Mike was telling us about how he got into music and then his initial, the initial bands that he was in before Triumph.
Cool. Yeah, I won't interrupt. I should have been here a little bit earlier. I apologize, but please, I'll just listen in and hop in with a few questions later on.
I'm sorry, Mr. Levine. You continue.
Where was I? Yeah, so there's a lot of bands in between. And got a little bit of recording experience early on. Made a couple of singles with really lousy, what do I call it? Lousy record companies, if there were record companies at all. But the experience was very, very important, I think, overall in my career, because it gave me the opportunity to go, it's a whole different ballgame being in a studio than it is being on a stage. It's night and day. 2 totally different ways to approach things. And the studio exposes how bad you are.
Yeah.
And how much better you have to be. So, the live, when you're playing around live, gigging at a bar or a high school or something at that stage, yeah, everything gets covered up pretty easily if you're not playing well. But studio, there's there's very few second chances, especially back then. So you had to be good, and you found out you weren't that good, so you had to go back and go, hey, I'm sorry, I got to go practice a lot more.
So now, is all that different types of music though? The different bands, all of them, every one has like a different vibe to them, or
mainly R&B.
Okay.
Mainly R&B. It was at one point a band called Terry and the Pirates. That there was 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we were 11 people in the band. 2 singers, girl and a guy, and then horns and the whole 9 yards. We're kind of like a really, really lousy Chicago. So, but it was fun. We got better, and we did make a single. Go in the studio, do a single.
Okay.
It went on from there. Then I kind of retired. I stopped playing. I went to work for a record company when I was maybe 21 years old, something like that. Got to travel to New York a lot. Got to meet some incredible people. Learned so much through that experience. got to meet record company guys, got to meet some of the greatest songwriters in the world at the Brill Building.
Yeah.
On Broadway, Lieber and Stoller, Barry Mann, and Cynthia Wow. Just those people, was mind-boggling. I was like a kid in a candy store.
Carole King was there too, right?
Yeah, didn't get to meet her, but I spent a day there, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's a legendary place.
Yeah,
and the songs that came out of there.
Yeah, there's a series. Hopefully, it'll end up called "This Is Pop," and one of the episodes. Sorry, one of the episodes of it is all about the Brill Building in New York, right? So you got Paul Anka, God, just about everybody. It's like and what's his name? Who did Diana? Oh, please stay with me, Diana. Canadian guy. Why am I? Oh, here we go on this. Anyway, a bunch of hits. He's in it. Just like it was really cool. If you get a chance to see it in that episode, it'll probably end up on Netflix at one point, I would think. But the guys at Banger Films that are doing our doc.
Yeah, they've done some good ones.
Yeah.
I actually saw an interview with Paul Simon. He worked there too.
Yeah, it's amazing. How many people went through that building.
And that was like a day job. Your job was just to go up and write songs.
That's it. That's
knock them out. They knocked out some of the all-time classics.
Yeah. That's where Don Kirshner was out of too. Don Kirshner's Rock Concert, his publishing company, and all that. Yeah, pretty good. So for the record company, we eventually went out of business. We had records, made great records, they didn't sell, and we had to close the door, and then went into the jingle business, writing commercials, music for commercials. Did that for a couple of years. And then Gil started to bug me. He had a band that was like a part-time band, and so there was a bass player. He was having trouble keeping bass players, so he called me up one day and said, "Hey, can you just fill in for a couple of weeks? I'm in between bass players. All the songs. It's just cover tunes. You play them in your sleep. It'll be fun. Money's pretty good." I said, "Yeah, no." But he kept on me and kept on me. I said, "Okay, as a favor, I'll do it for 2 weeks." 2 weeks turned into 2 months. 2 months turned into 4 months. 4 months turned into 5 months. So we're having fun. But then Gil and I sat down and said, "You know what? Why don't we think about taking a serious kick at the band? Really get big. We've got this part-time stuff, and let's start a band that is going to be a big-time arena filling band." Which is like, quite a goal, I think, for a couple of guys. Without a band at that point, because the other 3 guys in the band, they wouldn't cut it for couldn't have them. So we figured, okay, 3-piece band. It's the coolest way to go. We all love Hendrix, we all love Zeppelin, which is essentially a 3-piece band.
Right.
So a friend of mine had started a record label, and I went to see him and his partner, and I said, "Look, I'm going to start this band. We're going to be huge. We're going to take the world by storm. If you guys need to sign us and give me a check, we need some money, some seed money." And they said, "Okay, we'll take a shot." Wrote us a check for 10 grand, which was a lot of money in those days for nothing. But we put that money to work and started building a band. Basically, we had a poster, we had a name. We didn't have a guitar player. We were auditioning guitar players. And one of the agents we work with called us up and said, "You should go see this guy, Rick Emmett, playing. You're playing at the Hollywood Tavern this week. You guys should go."
Good call.
Okay, well, we went and we saw, and we went, "He's the guy." So we managed to, he was flabbergasted that we had a record deal, and we actually had a single that we had made with the previous band as well. So we put the name Triumph on that. So Rick was, loved the guys he was playing with, and came with us. And away we went. The saga began.
And as lucky as you got there, and I'll let Tom jump in here. You got lucky because the personality seemed to click. Then, if you moved on, right?
Yeah, that was the key. We did a lot of things that were weird. We decided early on that we had to figure out that we could live together and tour together. So we had the agent book us a bunch of shows, clubs, and maybe a couple of colleges in Northern Ontario, like way up north, cold, snow, ice everywhere. So we go up there, there was no gigs. The agent wasn't playing. So we had to figure out our own gigs. Actually, there was one gig that started us off. That was perfect. It was in a bar that nobody came because they'd never heard of us.
Right.
So we're playing for 12 people. But then after a few days, word got out that, hey, these guys are pretty good. Then there'd be 100 people and 200 people. So the owner said, you know what, if you guys stay around, I'll make sure that I'll have you here a couple of days a week. And hopefully you'll find some other kids. So we did. And we went through, just finding the gigs and calling other agents and who helped us out. And we stayed up there for a month, I'm going to say, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe a month. And then came back and we had fun, even though it was a lot of grief and aggravation, we just laughed our way through everything. And so, personalities all meshed. We could go through the real bad scene. We could go through a good scene. It was perfect. So that was the beginning of the saga. So that was really the beginning, to find out that we could actually work together, live together, play together, just be together.
That's great.
And that ties in nicely to, I just hung out in the background just because I didn't want to interrupt the interview, and it's a wealth of information already. And I had some questions about the same thing that Mike had asked about the psychology of the band. And that's actually part of what we do here, is trying to get into the dynamics and such. So, more than just a songwriter, more than just a bassist, it seems that you were, let's say, all of you were friends, as you just mentioned, but you did the bass, keyboard work, songwriting. How did that mesh into the dynamics of the other individuals? Because I tend to note, depending upon the band, obviously you're on stage, egos are necessary. How did the egos blend in with each other? Was it just a clear recognition? All right, this guy's got the talent in this area, and I just want to do this, or harmonies, or like how did the dynamics work out as you developed your song material in the studio?
Well, we were lucky enough or unlucky enough to really draw on, all our influences. So Rick came out of really a more progressive prog rock kind of situation with his previous band. For example, they played Gentle Giant and Yes and early Queen. And, tough to play, tough to be there. They did a pretty credible job when we saw them. So he could play anything, though. It didn't matter. When a guy's that good, he could play anything. And Gil was like, both he and I had our rhythm and blues backgrounds. So that's kind of where we came out of. So we're able to mesh all that together and come up with something that everybody did whatever they could. Because a three-piece band, there's a lot of pressure on you to come up with and just do anything, to contribute. So Rick and Gil really did most of the songwriting. I did the production. I was the producer. So, musically speaking, bass doesn't get in the way of drums or guitar, it just adds to it, right? And which is like a very key thing for us as a band. It was, leaving the spaces, leaving the holes for everybody to shine a little bit and not overplay. But in the studio, I was the boss. So I could be the real bad guy and stop my foot and yell and scream. So not that I ever had to, but my job was really to get the best performance out of those two guys, and including myself. which is I counted on them to critique me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a great partnership for a long time. It started good and it didn't quite end so well, but now it's ended pretty good. So you
I can
just go
relate
back.
to the boss component in the studio, and this is on a much smaller scale. I'm in a few bands, Mike's in bands and such, but there's
How
always
we
one
met.
individual that stands out. Plus Scarshine, the two of us back in the day, but there's always one individual that just kind of drives what happens in a particular area. Studio. There's one person that just says, "Look, it's got to be this way," and that's it's tough turning over those reins, I imagine, but it sounds like they kind of followed your leadership in the studio when you had to get it to as close to perfect as possible.
Yeah, they were good subjects, and I was a fair boss. They got rewards if they did good. But we're all after the same goal, right? Make great records. Be better songwriters, be better musicians.
Yeah.
That was our goal. Really. And then as we got better, our records got better. The tours got bigger, and radio said yes, we want to try it, and away we go. There's so many factors, including lady luck is the most important one. Because there's so many great bands that never made it. Just they didn't get the luck factor.
Anvil. Anvil's a great example. We interviewed Anvil, and I mean documentaries, Amazon, talking about how they were a foundation, and just kind of missed the boat or missed the bandwagon, whatever happened. And even the other people that were just like, I don't know, they just kind of disappeared for a while, and then they came back, but they consistently went into the studio. It was Mike. What is it? 19 albums they did? I forget.
They're on 18, and they've written the next one. And I've actually stayed friendly with Lips. One thing that they did end up, the documentary did do, is they are able to live off the career, which was their goal. So he's actually happy that he didn't end up in he was asked to be in Motorhead as the guitar player, and he could have left and done that, but then think about it, that a band like that had about 18 members. Instead he has 18 albums he made himself. He looks at it he owns his own pizza place. He's not Walmart.
Right.
He owns his company though, So
great.
But look at all the stuff that, just from me following you for years, some of the stuff that you look at how, put it this way, you go from 3 guys going up to the tundra, and enjoying yourself, filling up bars, where there's 12 people in them, which me and Tom know about on occasion. And then, you have this long career, and it destroys your relationship to some degree at one point. And now you seem like you healed the wounds, and you got back together for the Rocklahoma and the Sweden Rock Show, right? And put some great shows together there. So we don't usually try. The reason we started this, just whether you're interested or not, is the pandemic, basically.
Okay.
So we went on Zoom to kind of reconnect with each other. And, everybody, it's election year. You couldn't ask for a worse train wreck of things happening in our country anyway, and in the world. And we wanted to get away from negativity and support the musicians and the crews and us, and, with some positivity. And, so we don't usually, and Tom will attest to this. A lot of times I watch in podcasts just because there's so many. I want to see what everybody, what people are doing. And a lot of people want to hear the dirt. And I don't really, but Tom does have, questions about personalities and different things that he likes to ask. And
also I was going to turn it back over to you on this note, Mike, because you mentioned to me before about you talked just now about how band kind of pulled apart for a little while, did their own thing. And Mike, you mentioned about the 80s music production. you went into that space for a while. Did that kind of like fill in some of the components that you were missing in the band for a bit? Like, did that fill the space?
Um, I'm not quite sure what your question is, Tom. It's so uh, the band, lasted. I guess the last show we played was 1988. So,
Mhm.
which was after the Surveillance album. Yeah.
which I love.
Right. So after that, basically, I hung up my spikes. I didn't want to play anymore after the band kind of, stopped,
Mhm.
and just did other things for a while. The business-oriented stuff, trying to clean up. There's a lot of Triumph business that needed cleaning up with the record labels we had been with, and I was on the hunt for money. Basically, I found a lot where they record companies are notorious for underpaying you and
Yeah.
and using a lot of whiteout on their statements. So, I've made a lot of friends at a couple of record labels that were in accounting, and they kind of pointed me in the right direction and helped out on the side.
Spotify is huge in the United States. I imagine it's got a presence in Canada, but I mean from what I understand, the artists, especially the ones that really don't have a huge following, they get paid very like a fraction of a penny per song listen.
Yeah.
So it's always a push to try to raise that amount.
Yeah. There is always something. Our especially in Canada, our copyright laws are ludicrously stupid.
Oh, really?
Even in America, I think, if America pays and legislated by the Copyright Board of America or Congress legislates it, let's say it's 3 cents, 3 cents to play. It's not, but let's say it is. In Canada, it's a quarter of a cent to play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge difference. That's about 1,000%.
Right.
I don't know, do the multiples. So if you're an artist and you get a billion plays, you can buy a hamburger and maybe a milkshake.
Right.
But maybe fries, but no ketchup with them. It's disgusting.
The coupon. Yeah.
It's tough, and they keep trying to revise it, and for some idiotic reason, the Copyright Board, which is a government organization with a bunch of hacks on it,
Mm-hmm.
we think that it's fair that the provider, which would be Spotify, for example, gets the lion's share of the money, not the artist. We're going, huh?
Probably never played a note in their life.
Well, probably not.
No.
It's a appointed job. They probably make a couple $100,000 a year to go to 4 meetings. So,
what was that?
Something like that. It's just
Tom had a funny comment. I think he's mentioned it. We interviewed Simon Wright, who was the drummer of AC/DC at one point. What was that you said you have a dream or something about the emergency broadcast system?
Oh yeah, I have a feeling that one day given the way that the direction of music is, and I mean everything's digitized and everything, and some of it's okay, but I just have this feeling like at some point in the future, like the music, the top number one song is just going to basically sound like the emergency broadcast. It's just going to be like
Right.
oh, that was amazing. It's like that's the way it feels sometimes.
It'll be 30 seconds long because that's the longest attention span. That'll be like a double album.
Right. People have no time. They'll do an algorithm or something, some shit like that.
When you were talking about producing and stuff, where did I think you let go of the reins somewhere around the Sport of Kings? Like,
no.
Let him go. I mean, but
we brought in Eddie Kramer for Thunder 7.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right. But he came in the mix. We had already recorded the album.
Mm-hmm.
So he was, we hired him to be the mixer for it. It was great working with him because, Phil and Rick would sit there and ask her questions about, Jimmy Page and And I bought it. Like, how did everybody get that sound? Bill would ask Eddie, and Eddie would go, he had legs like a tractor. They were like pillars. He was so strong. He was a bricklayer. So he hit the bass drum, and it was so loud that you couldn't have the microphone just picked it up. You didn't have to move the mic. It was everywhere.
Well, that's the funny thing about those albums from the 80s. Obviously, Triumph didn't go that far down that rabbit hole, but there are some where it doesn't even sound like a drum.
Oh, that's
sounds like a storm.
Yeah. All the samples and crap like that,
and just like the layered amount of like the washed out echo on everything. Yeah, I'd rather hear a little bit more of a clean sound, like voice or something coming through.
Yep, I don't disagree with you.
What would you say of your catalog? Any particular albums or songs that stand out for you that you're just like, completely in the zone? This is what I was born to be putting out there.
Oh, there were songs on the first record because it was the first record, and then there were songs on the second record because it was the second record. There were songs on the third record because it was the third record. And you go, what about that song on the first one? Oh, forget that. We're on the third record now. This third
record right here.
We used to go, okay, so our first album went gold in Canada, right? And that was our goal, to have a gold record. We wanted to have a gold record.
Yeah.
So gold record in Canada is 50,000 units. So we're at like 45,000 and counting. Our goal is to have a platinum record. Forget gold. Platinum's 100,000.
Yeah, let's forget this. We're on to the next one.
That's a done deal. Like,
I get that.
We need a new goal. You can't go, oh, we made our goal and then go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
No, you got to keep going.
Yep.
So that's kind of how we approached everything. But I think there were some really great songs. It's different. The thing with us was we were different.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can listen to a Triumph album and find stuff you just shake your head and go, what's that doing there? But for the album one, we did that kind of thing, where there's a little acoustic guitar piece, or something that's kind of jazzy, or something that's orchestral, or something that's incredibly heavy. So we were like all over the place, unfocused as a band, as record companies used to say. You guys need to focus more. Here we go. Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's my band. I'll do what I want. But when you talk about something like that, though, I mean, if you look at songs like, you can have, I Live for the Weekend, and then a Hard Road right next to it, on Progressions of Power, or use Never Surrender. That you're all over the place on Never Surrender. That's like a metal album, and then there's When the Lights Go Down, then you're
classical music pieces.
Yeah, you're everywhere. So I think that's one of the things, especially for the time these albums came out, that I really loved about you. Because some of the other stuff, okay, you had your what's the form, you every third song was you put out the heavy single, and then you got your ballad, and then you got your next middle of the road, mid-tempo hard rock song, and you followed the pattern there. Not you, I'm saying that was the pattern, and
it was the pattern,
MTV, like pre-programmed. And I think when you put on one of your records, like Thunder 7, speaking about that, you have like songs like Time Can, Killing Time, and then Rock Out, Roll On. I mean, and then it hits out, Spellbound and everything. So you're definitely eclectic, and it seems to get started to expand more until you hit that Sport of Kings album. Like you seem to focus down to more of a refined
style.
Refined style just for that one album to me.
Yeah, it was that was a weird situation, that album, sadly. But I was talking, I can't remember, I was doing an interview the other day, and somebody said that's by far my favorite Triumph album.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that might have been Mitch that said that to you.
It might have been Mitch,
it's up there with mine.
Yeah.
Mine too, but
it's probably my least favorite Triumph album. but it's only because of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very difficult record to make.
Right.
With all the different players that were involved and all this shit that happened. But yeah, it was pretty focused because it had to be. There had to be a focus because without a focus, we would have gone forget about all over the place. We just would have gone tail in a handbasket. So those two the guys thought, okay, this is where we're going with it. These are the kind of tunes we're going to end up doing. And we ended up turfing a bunch of songs. We had to go back to the drawing board. So it was a rough album to make. But I don't think you don't notice it. In the grooves, the record was fine as far as I think. It was a very good record.
Oh, it's on my playlist constantly. That when we're outside sitting, my wife and I have a nice deck and go out in there, listen to music and enjoy the weather or whatever. And Triumph is constantly on. Trust me, my neighbors know Triumph if they didn't know you before.
He's not lying. He is not lying about that. Because I hear it in the background as well from time to time. So there's
like one of the things I loved about Sport of Kings is well, actually, let me just jump back to what I said to you about being going to different styles. That was a complete compliment, just so you understood. I thought that was a strength of the band, that you could do even though you can look at like somebody like, say, oh, you're a three-piece or what, Now, every album you did was different. Yeah. The interweaving of the vocals that Rick and Gil and everybody had is definitely unique into you. So, there was nothing to ever be, yawning at or thinking that you came up selling us short as a person that spent their money on your product.
Well, you always wonder if you hadn't heard the record. You wonder what's going to happen next. If you already do it, that's how we did things.
And then jumping in. We don't want to take your whole day. Then you jump into Surveillance, which I think is a great album. I do have a weird question though, because I noticed it sounds like Steve Morris is on that album a bunch. Or did he just come in on a couple songs? But I think he's in there. And I was always curious about that because you can't miss how he plays. I know he goes trading back and forth with Rick. On Headed to Nowhere.
Yeah.
Then
they did some acoustic stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
But Steve was great. What a great player, what a great guy. That's really a nice man.
But see, you kind of seem to go back to the Triumph style that you were natural to. It almost seemed like a middle finger to me. To like maybe what your record, whatever you were dealing with. Where you were kind of like, we're going back to doing whatever we want to do.
You never know about those things, right?
No.
You never confirm nor deny, right?
Well, you can't do that. Like people say that, why don't you write a book about your experiences in the music business? I said, because I have to wait for a lot of people to die before I could write the book.
Right. Yeah. But
otherwise, I'll be dead.
Again, on a much smaller scale, I do a lot of work with our local chambers of commerce, right? And no names, but there's this one individual that has just been a nightmare for me. And she finally moved away. And it was almost like that scene in Three Amigos where they're like, yay, and they're doing like the piñatas and celebrating it. That's the way it feels. And I feel like I want to write something, but I don't want to be stupid about it. Right. So I'm going to wait about 5 years or so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always smart not to immediately react to something.
Sir. Yes, sir.
So what I'm going to do is we'll kind of lead it out of here, but we got a couple questions. So let's go into the Edge of Excess album, another album I really like. And I have a funny joke about that, is that you had Phil X on the guitar.
Yeah.
Now, he has a Rick Emmett type high voice. But he doesn't sing any leads, though. Right?
On the record, no.
No, yes. Still singing the main leads. Yeah. I have a joke, though, because he stole two of my favorite guitar players' positions, not from stealing, but him and Richie Sambora, who I love Bon Jovi. And I love Richie's writing and playing. See if I can ask this question unique, because I'm sure you've answered it a million times. So you had the nucleus leave, one of the members of the foundation of the band. what made you want to go one more time out if you had been through a few years of tension, and and pick a young young hot shot, and go out there and give it a whirl. And I think that album's another album that's solid too.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we had the studio, right? So Metalworks is sitting there. Gil got an urge to sing a couple of songs, so got involved with a few people that had been in there recording. They did some demos, just fooling around or whatever. And then Gil calls me up. He says, "You want to come listen to what we're working on?" I go, "Sure." So, I listened to it. I said, "This is really cool. What's going on here?" So we started to have like writing sessions and ended up with a whole bunch of songs that maybe we should make a record. So a lot of the stuff originally was done. We worked with the guitarist named Mladen Borisek. Mladen was a really good player and a great songwriter and a fun guy to be with. But he's not wasn't a band kind of guy. He floated from band to band to band to band to band. And, we were recording and stuff. And then we thought, you know what? Like, maybe we should finish this album up and make a record deal for it and see what happens. But first, we need a guitar player to be in the band.
Yeah.
Again, right? So Phil was around. And I didn't know Phil well. Gil knew him, but not well. But Phil was a huge fan and one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet in your life.
And extremely talented.
And extremely talented. So Phil, we have a meeting with Phil, and Phil goes, "Fuck, I did. Where do I start? Well, you got to replace all the guitars on the album now."
Yeah, I follow him on Instagram and stuff, and he's Trip. He's always doing something silly.
He's great, and he's doing. He's involved in the tribute record. He's singing a song and playing some guitars.
That's great.
In LA, so that's fun. So we made a deal for the record. In retrospect, we probably should have called it Triumph. If I had to, but hindsight's 2020. That's like whatever. At the time, it seemed like, who cares? That's fine.
Always name the next album that, or if there's any music coming down the pike. Might we see some new music coming out soon? I don't know if you can confirm nor deny or anything like that.
We talk about it, the three of us.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes up with a song that we all go, yeah, let's go to the studio and do that, then we'll do it.
I'll get on it. I'll get on it right now, just to get you back together.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Nothing said. We've been talking about that for like 8 years now.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to let it simmer, just for a little while, and that way it's no pressure. It's like, when it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
I know when we covered the documentary, you played a short set for fans or something there. For that, do you think that maybe we might get another Sweden Rock and and Rocklahoma one-off here and there, or two shows here or there?
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I don't think so. There could be something very interesting that I can't talk about coming in 2022, though.
Okay.
Very cool.
Well, then.
I can't say what it is, but it will be all the latest technology. And it will be very Triumph-centric.
Okay.
Excellent. That's a good thing to hang our hats on.
Yeah, if it all plays out the way we want it to. We've been working on it for a couple of years now. So.
All right.
Excellent.
That's cool.
All right.
And I mean, and the power that you have from the studio that Gil has, right? You have a lot of technology going on there.
Yeah.
To work with.
There's that. We got Microsoft's involved. We got
oh wow.
Some of the biggest players of the AI world and all interested and supporting us and putting up gear and doing that. So we're getting closer and closer. If it wasn't for COVID, we'd probably be, it would either be yay or nay by now. But anyway, we'll see. Finals for next
Down
year.
Here in Texas, where I am, we're open, and we've actually had my wife works in a hospital, and there's nothing happening in it really anymore other than normal stuff. And we actually had a few days in a row. I mean, we're a few days in a row where there was no deaths. and reported. So all the festivals and everything around us are coming back. So music's alive here.
That's great. It's certainly not here.
I want to thank you for being here. And I'm sure obviously Tom does.
No, not at all.
No. I don't like that guy Tom anyway.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
He asks the hard questions.
Best.
He's the more ethereal thinker of the two of us. I just sit there and throw on the record and just act silly running around my house.
Sometimes I get a little too trippy. It's like, and it's not the first time I heard I don't understand the question. So I have to like trim it down a little bit better. So I'm working on it. Apologies.
Well, no, it wasn't the question was bad. I just didn't have a good answer for it.
Yeah.
So you don't have a good answer. It's like, I don't know where you're going with that.
Yeah. What do you mean? So, cool.
Well, we have coming out for Triumph. We have Record Store Day that drops, that takes place on June 12th and 17th. And we have the 40th anniversary box set of the classic album, Allied Forces, coming out. So we obviously discussed all the goodies involved. And anybody that is a fan of Triumph is going to want that album or that box set. And if you're not, get off your lazy butt and go out and get it. All right? And become a fan. All right? Any last words there, Tom?
Don't forget, you can check out the band at triumphmusic.com.
Whoa.
And not for nothing, very good that your site is secure. I'm in web development, so that was the first thing that I checked is is it secure? Ladies and gentlemen, it is secure. So you can check out a lot of the works, discography, photo gallery, blog, shot, the whole 9 yards. So definitely check them out.
And we'll throw the link up here and everything else that we need to get the word out for you.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Mike, thank you very much. Thank you for being in my life and bringing joy to me and my family and, for decades, literally. Well, thank you for being on Rockland Sound. I'll edit that one.
Okay. Thanks for having me, guys. You guys, you don't have to stay safe anymore, so I'm not going to say it. Have fun. Just have fun.
I'm going to say right now, I don't like myself.
Take care.
All
right, guys.
Have a good one. Thank you.